I think a lot of people in the government know that they're not doing good work, but it's a giant graft machine.
The people criticizing Elon don't want it to happen. And this is going to destroy those people.
Oh no, Elon Musk is an unelected billionaire. That has to be stopped, claim Democrats. Can we talk about George Soros? Oh, we're going to talk about George Soros. Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Wherever you're watching this, please join me over on Rumble Premium, where you get more of our content without ads. And that is what you're going to need if you want to support independent media, because without independent media, we will be swarmed, overwhelmed, and overcome by globalist imperialism, and no one represents that more than George Soros. Now, Elon Musk, of course, remains a very controversial figure because he's got an incredible, unprecedented amount of power. And I was thinking about, how can I even begin to analyze and understand Elon Musk with his role at Tesla and SpaceX and now his role in Doge? What I can tell you is that the Democrat Party movement demonstrate further the fact that they're out of step when they criticize Doge because they are dismantling government or because they are sacking government employees. Here's a newsflash. People don't love the government anymore. Do you know why they don't love the government? Because of you. Because you demonstrated government corruption and hypocrisy again and again and again throughout the pandemic, throughout numerous wars, through your behavior in media, through the generals that you bring onto MSNBC to advocate for war without ever declaring that they've got board seats at Raytheon or Northrop Grumman or wherever else. You have brought about your own demise, and Doge is the weapon against the corruption that you augured with figures like George Soros, who Elon Musk spoke about extensively on his recent appearance on Joe Rogan. So let's talk about Doge, let's talk about Musk, let's talk about Soros, and let's talk about the decline of the Democratic Party movement. Here, the CEO of Palantir admits that the Democratic Party is committing suicide over Doge.
Look, what I don't like about what's going on is I just view this as, well, let's watch the Democratic Party commit suicide. And I've been a Democrat most of my life. I kind of view myself as outside it, but I don't like watching the Democrats just commit suicide. And what I see is most of the country doesn't really, at this point, given the fraud, waste, and abuse we know is there, 90% of the country is like, get rid of that fraud, waste, and abuse. And I just view this as yet another example of the progressive left boxing themselves into a suicide dance. Now, what the progressive left should be doing is saying, okay, Elon, you're clearly the most qualified person in the world to do something like this. We want to dialogue with you about how you're doing and what are you doing. I don't believe that's actually what happened. And again, I like Elon. I know, I think he's obviously the most important builder in the world. And I just think, if you want to say my former side, I don't believe that they're actually engaging. I think it's like another dance where I'm supposed to say, of course, whatever. It's like there's this one issue where I might, and then you get boxed into you cannot solve the problem. And then I would say, what is the biggest problem in this society? Biggest problem in this society from my perspective is legitimacy of our institutions. Why aren't they legitimate? They're not legitimate because, okay, do any of you really believe that 99% of your taxpayer dollars are being spent? But last and not least, and probably arguably most importantly, there's two revolutions happening. One is transparency and one is AI. Okay, so why is it that we do not know where every penny of our money goes? How do you explain that to people? And by the way, slightly more technically, what large language models do is you can go into the contracts and see exactly what happened. So in the past, we couldn't do this. Now we can. The right response is, we want this to happen. We want to happen. We want to be involved in the dialogue. The real response is, it feels like the people criticizing Elon don't want it to happen. And this is going to destroy those people.
What is the Democrat Party going to become if even people that are dyed-in-the-wool supporters are starting to doubt them? Is the movement irrelevant? Have they allied themselves so deeply with commercialism and globalism and empty rhetoric and wokeism that really just caused and causes division rather than unity, committed suicide as a party? Let me know what you think in the comments and chat. Certainly, the fact that they coalesce around figures like Bill Gates and the other Bill, Epstein's island-hopping buddies, or that George Soros appears to be such a significant and shadowy figure behind the power of the Democrat Party suggests that they have their own billionaires, they have their own corruption, and they ultimately and significantly don't like American people. Here's Elon Musk talking with Joe Rogan about the influence and impact of George Soros and his particularly ingenious hack, how he even became George Soros in the first place. Now, my favorite bit of information about Soros was when Mike Benz helped me to understand that Soros has preemptive and early information on conflicts like, for example, Ukraine v. Russia, and that he's able to get into an advantageous financial position because of his relationships with NGOs and CIA cutouts. That essentially, these people aren't billionaires because of ingenuity, but because of corruption, cronyism, and hypocrisy. Here's Musk revealing maybe a little too much to Rogan, or is this just how the world works now? Let me know what you think in the comments and chat.
It's kind of a hack to the system where someone can get an NGO stood up for a fairly small amount of money. Like George Soros was really good at this. Like George Soros is like a system hacker. Like he figured out how to hack the system. He's a genius at arbitrage. I mean, these days he's pretty old, but a genius at arbitrage. So he figured out that you could leverage a small amount of money to create a nonprofit, then lobby the politicians to send a ton of money to that nonprofit, so you can take what might be, a $10 million donation to a nonprofit to create a nonprofit and leverage that into $1 billion NGO. A nonprofit is a weird word. It's just a non-governmental organization, and then the government continues to fund that every year, and it'll have a nice sounding name like the Institute for Peace or something like that. But really, it's a graft machine.
And what are their requirements with that money? What do they have to do?
Just really no requirements at all.
So they just get grants and the government just assumes that they're doing good work.
I think a lot of people in the government know that they're not doing good work, but it's a giant graft machine.
It's this kind of insight that allows Trump to now do stand-up about USAID and the bizarre, berserk projects and schemes that American taxpayer dollars were being spent on. Even if there's more complexity than Trump claimed in his rhetoric, certainly we don't want Iraqi Sesame Street to be prioritized over hurricanes or aids to the numerous Americans suffering from spiritual, psychological, medical, and meteorological disasters. George Soros is, I suppose, an emblem of old global imperial power, the power that would have been in unstoppable ascent had the Democrats won the last election. They didn't. Trump did. And now you've got Musk, a new billionaire oligarch, but one that seems pretty comfortable to speak openly for hours and hours on media, that has a platform in X where people can speak openly and freely. So if you've got to choose your oligarch, I guess I'd probably choose that one. But that's just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comments and the chat? Remember, wherever you're watching us, you might be watching us on YouTube, X, you could be watching us a whole bunch of places. Join us on Rumble and Rumble Premium and support our content there because that's our home. More important than any of that, if you can, please stay free.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.